So, Manju, what's been happening with accommodations for post-secondary students with learning disabilities? We hear there have been some changes recently.
That's a great question, Linda, and you're absolutely right. The winds of change are sweeping over accommodations for students who learn differently. And there have been a couple of drivers for this change, and change is good. We do know, for example, the amendments to the Americans with Disabilities Act passed in 2008 and then implemented in January 2009 defined individuals with disabilities more broadly than the courts had previously interpreted it. In addition to that, the regulations passed in 2011 and more recent proposals to the regulations by the Department of Justice are fueling the winds of change. In addition, which is very interesting, is we are seeing a different profile of students with learning disabilities coming to college, quite different from what we have seen in the past. And added to that are new thinking around disability documentation and documentation guidelines. What I'd like to do is present two food for thought items around accommodations and students with disabilities. One, the fact that accommodations provided in one setting do not all automatically translate to the same accommodations in a different setting. So, for example, accommodations that a student might have received in grade school do not necessarily automatically translate and are most beneficial for when the student is in college. The same happens for students transitioning from college to work. All accommodations may not automatically apply. And the second food for thought is, I would propose and invite you to think about the fact that we need to really move out of the traditional LD mindset for accommodations. And that is that accommodation is a one-time static determination, and that accommodations really need to be determined in a much more dynamic manner. The reason for this is simple. Many students with diagnosed LD come to college with a host of other survival tools, if I may call them that. Many of the students have picked up tips, strategies, and techniques to survive in an environment, whether in school and now in college, that doesn't quite understand some of the issues that they're dealing with. So many of these students display anxiety, panic, which may not rise to the level of a disability or a panic disorder, but definitely are part of how they are interacting on a daily basis. Learned helplessness, obsessive perfectionism. These are all characteristics we see in many of our students with LD coming to college. So it's really important that in determining accommodations, we think of it as a much more dynamic process and look at the gestalt of what the student is bringing to the table, which includes their survival toolkit. We will be talking a lot more about this in our LCERT fall webinar series coming up in October. So stay tuned. Information will be available on the Landmark College website as well as the LCERT website.